SpaceX. Space Exploration Technologies Corp. SpaceX is an American aerospace manufacturer and space transportation services company headquartered in Hawthorne, California. SpaceX was founded in 2002 by Elon Musk with the goal of reducing space transportation costs to enable the colonization of Mars. SpaceX manufactures the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy launch vehicles, several rocket engines, Dragon cargo, crew spacecraft, and Starlink communication satellites. SpaceX's achievements include the first privately funded liquid propellant rocket to reach orbit, Falcon 1 in 2008, the first private company to successfully launch, orbit, and recover a spacecraft, Dragon in 2010, the first private company to send a spacecraft to the International Space Station, Dragon in 2012, the first vertical takeoff and vertical propulsive landing for an orbital rocket, Falcon 9 in 2015, the first reuse of an orbital rocket, Falcon 9 in 2017, and the first private company to send astronauts to orbit and to the International Space Station, SpaceX Crew Dragon Demo 2 in 2020. SpaceX has flown and reflown the Falcon 9 series of rockets over 100 times. SpaceX is developing a satellite mega-constellation named Starlink to provide commercial internet service. In January 2020, the Starlink constellation became the largest satellite constellation in the world. SpaceX is also developing Starship, a privately funded, fully reusable, super heavy lift launch system for interplanetary spaceflight. Starship is intended to become the primary SpaceX orbital vehicle once operational, supplanting the existing Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy and Dragon fleet. Starship will be fully reusable and will have the highest payload capacity of any orbital rocket ever on its debut, scheduled for the early 2020s. History: 2001 to 2004. Founding. In 2001, Elon Musk conceptualized Mars Oasis, a project to land a miniature experimental greenhouse and grow plants on Mars. He announced that the project would be the farthest that life's ever traveled, in an attempt to regain public interest in space exploration and increase the budget of NASA. Musk tried to purchase cheap rockets from Russia but returned empty-handed after failing to find rockets for an affordable price. On the flight home, Musk realized that he could start a company that could build the affordable rockets he needed. By applying vertical integration, using cheap commercial off-the-shelf components when possible, and adopting the modular approach of modern software engineering, Musk believed SpaceX could significantly cut launch price. In early 2002, Musk started to look for staff for his new space company, soon to be named SpaceX. Musk approached rocket engineer Tom Mueller, later SpaceX's CTO of propulsion, and invited him to become his business partner. Mueller agreed to work for Musk, and thus SpaceX was born. SpaceX was first headquartered in a warehouse in El Segundo, California. By November 2005, the company had 160 employees. Musk personally interviewed and approved all of SpaceX's early employees, even going so far as convincing Larry Page to transfer a Google employee from San Francisco to Los Angeles so that the employee's spouse, a potential SpaceX hire, would take the job. Musk has stated that one of his goals with SpaceX is to decrease the cost and improve the reliability of access to space, ultimately by a factor of 10. 2005 to 2009. Falcon 1 and first orbital launches. SpaceX developed its first orbital launch vehicle, the Falcon 1, with private funding. The Falcon 1 was an expendable two-stage to orbit small lift launch vehicle. The total development cost of Falcon 1 was approximately $90 million to $100 million. In 2005, SpaceX announced plans to pursue a human-rated commercial space program through the end of the decade, a program that would later become the Dragon Spacecraft. In 2006, NASA announced that the company was one of two selected to provide crew and cargo resupply demonstration contracts to the ISS under the COTS program. The first two Falcon 1 launches were purchased by the United States Department of Defense under a program that evaluates new U.S. launch vehicles suitable for use by DARPA. The first three launches of the rocket, between 2006 and 2008, all resulted in failures. These failures almost ended the company as Musk had planned and financing to cover the costs of three launches. Tesla, SolarCity, and Musk personally were all nearly bankrupt at the same time as well. Musk was reportedly waking from nightmares, screaming and in physical pain, because of the stress. However, things started to turn around when the first successful launch was achieved shortly after, with the fourth attempt on the 28th of September 2008. Musk split his remaining $30 million between SpaceX and Tesla, and NASA awarded the first Commercial Resupply Services (CRS) contract to SpaceX in December, thus financially saving the company. Based on these factors and the further business operations they enabled, the Falcon 1 was soon after retired following its second successful, and fifth total, launch in July 2009. This allowed SpaceX to focus company resources on the development of a larger orbital rocket, the Falcon 9. Gwynne Shotwell was also promoted to company president at this time, for her role in successfully negotiating the CRS contract with NASA. 2010 to 2012. Falcon 9, Dragon, and NASA contracts. SpaceX originally intended to follow its light Falcon 1 launch vehicle with an intermediate capacity vehicle, the Falcon 5. SpaceX instead decided in 2005 to proceed with the development of the Falcon 9, a reusable heavier lift vehicle. The development of the Falcon 9 was accelerated by NASA, which committed to purchasing several commercial flights if specific capabilities were demonstrated. This started with seed money from the Commercial Orbital Transportation Services (COTS) program in 2006. The overall contract award was $278 million to provide development funding for the Dragon Spacecraft, Falcon 9, and demonstration launches of Falcon 9 with Dragon. As part of this contract, the Falcon 9 launched for the first time in June 2010 with the Dragon Spacecraft Qualification Unit, using a mock-up of the Dragon spacecraft. The first operational Dragon spacecraft was launched in December 2010 aboard COTS Demo Flight 1, the Falcon 9's second flight, and safely returned to Earth after 2 orbits, completing all its mission objectives. By December 2010, the SpaceX production line was manufacturing one Falcon 9 and Dragon every 3 months. In April 2011, as part of its second-round Commercial Crew Development (CC-DEV) program, NASA issued a $75 million contract for SpaceX to develop an integrated launch escape system for Dragon in preparation for human rating it as a crew transport vehicle to the ISS. In August 2012, NASA awarded SpaceX a firm, fixed-price Space Act Agreement (SAW), with the objective of producing a detailed design of the entire crew transportation system. This contract includes numerous key technical and certification milestones, an uncrewed flight test, a crewed flight test, and 6 operational missions following system certification. In early 2012, approximately 2/3 of the company stock was owned by the founder Musk, and his 70 million shares were then estimated to be worth $875 million on private markets, valuing SpaceX at $1.3 billion. In May 2012, with the Dragon C2 Plus launch, Dragon became the first commercial spacecraft to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. After the flight, the company's private equity valuation nearly doubled to $2.4 billion or $20 per share. By that time, SpaceX had operated on total funding of approximately $1 billion over its first decade of operation. Of this, private equity provided approximately $200 million, with Musk investing approximately $100 million and other investors having put in about $100 million. SpaceX's active reusability test program began in late 2012 with testing low-altitude, low-speed aspects of the landing technology. The Falcon 9 prototypes performed vertical takeoffs and landings, VTOL. High-velocity, high-altitude tests of the booster atmospheric return technology began in late 2013. 2013 to 2015. Commercial launches and rapid growth. SpaceX launched the first commercial mission for a private customer in 2013. In 2014, SpaceX won 9 contracts out of the 20 that were openly competed worldwide. That year Arianespace requested that European governments provide additional subsidies to face the competition from SpaceX. Beginning in 2014, SpaceX capabilities and pricing also began to affect the market for the launch of U.S. military payloads, which for nearly a decade was dominated by the large U.S. launch provider United Launch Alliance, ULA. The monopoly had allowed launch costs by the U.S. provider to rise to over $400 million over the years. In January 2015, SpaceX raised $1 billion in funding from Google and Fidelity, in exchange for 8.33% of the company, establishing the company valuation at approximately $12 billion. The same month SpaceX announced the development of a new satellite constellation, called Starlink, to provide global broadband internet service. The following June, the company asked the federal government for permission to begin testing for the project, aiming to build a constellation of 4,425 satellites. The Falcon 9 had its first major failure in late June 2015, when the 7th ISS resupply mission, CRS-7, exploded 2 minutes into the flight. The problem was traced to a failed 2-foot-long steel strut that held a helium pressure vessel, which broke free due to the force of acceleration. This caused a breach and allowed high-pressure helium to escape into the low-pressure propellant tank, causing the failure. 2015 to 2017. Reusability milestones. SpaceX first achieved a successful landing and recovery of a first stage in December 2015 with Falcon 9 Flight 20. In April 2016, the company achieved the first successful landing on the autonomous spaceport drone ship, ASDS, Of Course I Still Love You, in the Atlantic Ocean. By October 2016, following the successful landings, SpaceX indicated they were offering their customers a 10% price discount if they choose to fly their payload on a reused Falcon 9 first stage. In early September 2016, a Falcon 9 exploded during a propellant fill operation for a standard pre-launch static fire test. The payload, the Amos 6 communication satellite valued at $200 million, was destroyed. The explosion was caused by the liquid oxygen that is used as propellant turning so cold that it solidified and ignited with carbon composite helium vessels. Though not considered an unsuccessful flight, the rocket explosion sent the company into a 4-month launch hiatus while it worked out what went wrong. SpaceX returned to flight in January 2017. On the 30th of March 2017, SpaceX launched a returned Falcon 9 for the SES-10 satellite. This was the first time a relaunch of a payload-carrying orbital rocket went back to space. The first stage was recovered again, also making it the first landing of a reused orbital-class rocket. 2017-2018. Leading global commercial launch provider. In July 2017, the company raised $350 million for a valuation of $21 billion. In 2017, SpaceX achieved a 45% global market share for awarded commercial launch contracts. By March 2018, SpaceX had more than 100 launches on its manifest, representing about $12 billion in contract revenue. The contracts included both commercial and government, NASA, DoD, customers. This made SpaceX the leading global commercial launch provider measured by manifested launches. In 2017, SpaceX formed a subsidiary, The Boring Company, and began work to construct a short test tunnel on and adjacent to the SpaceX headquarters and manufacturing facility, utilizing a small number of SpaceX employees, which was completed in May 2018, and opened to the public in December 2018. During 2018, the Boring Company was spun out into a separate corporate entity with 6% of the equity going to SpaceX, less than 10% to early employees, and the remainder of the equity to Elon Musk. 2019-present. Starship, Starlink, and first crewed launches. On the 11th of January 2019, SpaceX announced it would lay off 10% of its workforce in order to help finance the Starship and Starlink projects. Construction of initial prototypes and tests for Starship started in early 2019 in Florida and Texas. All Starship construction and testing moved to the new SpaceX South Texas launch site later that year. In May 2019, SpaceX also launched the first large batch of 60 Starlink satellites, beginning the deployment of what would become the world's largest commercial satellite constellation the following year. SpaceX raised a total of $1.33 billion of capital across 3 funding rounds in 2019. By May 2019, the valuation of SpaceX had risen to $33.3 billion and reached $36 billion by March 2020. On the 30th of May 2020, SpaceX successfully launched 2 NASA astronauts, Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken, into orbit on a Crew Dragon spacecraft during Crew Dragon Demo 2, making SpaceX the first private company to send astronauts to the International Space Station and marking the first crewed launch from American soil in 9 years. The mission launched from Kennedy Space Center Launch Complex 39A, LC-39A, of the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. On the 19th of August 2020, after a $1.9 billion funding round, one of the largest single fundraisings pushes by any privately held company, SpaceX's valuation increased to $46 billion. In February 2021, SpaceX raised an additional $1.61 billion in an equity round from 99 investors at a per-share value of approximately $420, raising the company valuation to approximately $74 billion. It has raised a total of more than $6 billion in equity financing to date. The capital-intensive phase in recent years has been principally to support the operational fielding of the Starlink satellite constellation and the development and manufacture of the Starship launch vehicle. By 2021, SpaceX had entered into agreements with Google Cloud Platform and Microsoft Azure to provide on-ground compute and networking services for Starlink. Summary of achievements. Major achievements of SpaceX are in the reuse of orbital-class launch vehicles and cost reduction in the space launch industry. Most notable of these being the continued landings and relaunches of the first stage of Falcon 9 following a multi-year program to develop the reusable technology. As of May 2021, SpaceX has used 2 separate first-stage boosters, B1049 and B1051, 9 and 10 times respectively. Elon Musk has gone on to say they will continue to push the fleet leader, B1051, past the original goal of 10 flights. SpaceX is a private space company with most of its achievements the result of self-funded development efforts, not developed by traditional cost-plus contracting of the U.S. government. As a result, many of its achievements are also considered as firsts by a private company. Launch vehicles. SpaceX has developed 3 launch vehicles. The small-lift Falcon 1 was the first launch vehicle developed and was retired in 2009. The medium-lift Falcon 9 and the heavy-lift Falcon Heavy are both operational. The Falcon 1 was a small rocket capable of placing several hundred kilograms into low Earth orbit. It launched 5 times between 2006 and 2009, of which 2 successfully. It functioned as an early test bed for developing concepts and components for the larger Falcon 9. The Falcon 1 was the first privately funded, liquid-fueled rocket to reach orbit. Falcon 9 is a medium-lift launch vehicle capable of delivering up to 22,800 kilograms, 50,265 pounds, to orbit, competing with the Delta IV and the Atlas V rockets, as well as other launch providers around the world. It has 9 Merlin engines in its first stage. The Falcon 9 V1.0 rocket successfully reached orbit on its first attempt on 4 June 2010. Its third flight, COTS Demo Flight 2, launched on the 22nd of May 2012 and was the first commercial spacecraft to reach and dock with the International Space Station, ISS. The vehicle was upgraded to Falcon 9 V1.1 in 2013, Falcon 9 Full Thrust in 2015, and finally to Falcon 9 Block 5 in 2018. The first stage of Falcon 9 is designed to retro-propulsively land, be recovered, and reflown. The Falcon Heavy is a heavy-lift launch vehicle capable of delivering up to 63,800 kilograms, 140,700 pounds, to low Earth orbit, LEO, or 26,700 kilograms, 58,900 pounds, to geosynchronous transfer orbit, GTO. It uses 3 slightly modified Falcon 9 first-stage cores with a total of 27 Merlin 1D engines. The Falcon Heavy successfully flew its inaugural mission on 6 February 2018, launching Musk's personal Tesla Roadster into a heliocentric orbit. Both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy are certified to conduct launches for the National Security Space Launch, NSSL. As of March 2021, the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy have been launched 122 times, resulting in 120 full mission successes, 1 partial success, 1 in-flight failure. In addition, a Falcon 9 experienced a pre-flight failure prior to a static fire test in 2016. Rocket engines. Since the founding of SpaceX in 2002, the company has developed several rocket engines: Merlin, Kestrel, and Raptor for use in launch vehicles, Draco for the reaction control system of the Dragon series of spacecraft, and Super Draco for abort capability in Crew Dragon. Merlin is a family of rocket engines that use liquid oxygen, LOX, and RP-1 propellants in a gas generator power cycle. Merlin has first used to power the Falcon 1's first stage and is now used on both stages of the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy vehicles. The Merlin engine uses a pintle injector that provides deep throttle capability used during Falcon 9 landings. Propellants are fed via a single shaft, dual-impeller turbopump. Kestrel is a LOX, RP-1 pressure-fed rocket engine and was used as the Falcon 1 rocket's second-stage main engine. It is built around the same pintle architecture as SpaceX's Merlin engine but does not have a turbopump, and is fed only by tank pressure. The engine is ablatively cooled in the chamber and throat and is radiatively cooled on the exhaust nozzle. The Kestrel's nozzle is fabricated from a high-strength niobium alloy. Draco is a hypergolic liquid propellant rocket engine that utilizes monomethyl hydrazine fuel and nitrogen tetroxide oxidizer. Each Draco thruster generates 400 N, 90 lbf, of thrust. They are used on the reaction control system of the Dragon and Dragon 2 spacecraft. Super Draco is a hypergolic liquid propellant rocket engine that, like Draco, uses monomethyl hydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide propellants. 8 Super Draco engines provide launch escape capability for crewed Dragon 2 spacecraft during an abort scenario. Each Super Draco engine produces 73 kilonewtons, 16,000 lbf, of thrust. Initial concepts for the Crew Dragon spacecraft used the Super Draco engines to perform a retro-propulsive landing on land. However, these were scrapped in 2017 when it was decided to perform a traditional parachute descent and splashdown at sea. Raptor is a new family of liquid oxygen and liquid methane-fueled full-flow staged combustion cycle engines to power the first and second stages of the in-development Starship launch system. Development versions were test-fired in late 2016. On 3 April 2019, SpaceX conducted a static fire test in Texas on its Starhopper vehicle, which ignited the engine while the vehicle remained tethered to the ground. In 2019, Raptor flew for the first time, powering the Starhopper vehicle to an altitude of 20 meters, 66 feet. SpaceX continues to conduct further test flights of the Starship vehicle in 2020 and 2021. Dragon Spacecraft. SpaceX has developed the Dragon spacecraft to transport cargo and crew to the International Space Station. The first version of Dragon, used only for cargo, was first launched in 2010. The currently operational second-generation Dragon spacecraft, known as Dragon 2, conducted its first flight, without crew, to the ISS in early 2019, followed by a crewed flight of Dragon 2 in 2020. Dragon 2 is capable of transporting a crew of up to 7, 4 in NASA configuration, to low Earth orbit. On 7 December 2020, SpaceX flew the cargo variant of Dragon 2 to the space station for the 100th successful Falcon 9 flight. This is the first launch for this redesigned cargo Dragon, and also the first mission for SpaceX's new series of CRS missions under a renewed contract with NASA. On 27 March 2020, SpaceX revealed the Dragon XL resupply spacecraft to carry pressurized and unpressurized cargo, experiments, and other supplies to NASA's planned Lunar Gateway space station under a Gateway Logistics Services (GLS) contract. NASA plans to use Dragon XL to transport sample collection materials, spacesuits and other supplies to be used on the Gateway and on the surface of the Moon. Dragon XL will launch on the Falcon Heavy and will transport more than 5,000 kilograms, 11,000 pounds, to the Gateway. Dragon XL will stay at the Gateway for 6 to 12 months at a time when research payloads inside and outside the cargo vessel could be operated remotely, even when crews are not present. Autonomous spaceport drone ships. SpaceX routinely returns the first stage of Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets after orbital launches. The rocket flights and land to a predetermined landing site using only its own propulsion systems. When propellant margins do not permit a return to launch site, RTLS, rockets return to floating landing platforms in the ocean, called Autonomous Spaceport Drone Ships, ASDS. SpaceX also plans to introduce floating launch platforms. These are modified oil rigs to use in the 2020s to provide a sea launch option for their second-generation launch vehicle, the Heavy Lift Starship system, consisting of the Super Heavy booster and Starship second stage. SpaceX has purchased 2 deepwater oil rigs and is refitting them to support Starship launches. Starship. SpaceX is developing a fully reusable Super Heavy Lift launch system known as Starship. The Starship system comprises a reusable first stage, called Super Heavy, and the reusable Starship second stage and space vehicle. The system is intended to supersede the company's existing launch vehicle hardware by the early 2020s. SpaceX initially envisioned a 12-meter diameter its concept in 2016, which was solely aimed at Mars transit and other interplanetary uses. In 2017, SpaceX articulated a smaller 9-meter diameter vehicle to replace all of SpaceX's launch service provider capabilities: Earth orbit, lunar orbit, interplanetary missions, and potentially, even intercontinental passenger transport on Earth, but do so on a fully reusable set of vehicles with a markedly lower cost structure. In 2018, the Starship system was redesigned to use stainless steel instead of carbon fiber construction, with the aim of improving performance while drastically decreasing cost. Private passenger Yusaka Miyazawa has contracted to fly around the Moon in a Starship vehicle in 2023. The company's long-term vision is the development of technology and resources suitable for human colonization on Mars. Starlink. Starlink is an internet satellite constellation under development by SpaceX. The internet service will use 4,425 cross-linked communication satellites in 1,100 km orbits. Owned and operated by SpaceX, The goal of the business is to increase profitability and cash flow, to allow SpaceX to build its Mars colony. Development began in 2015. Initial prototype test flight satellites were launched on the SpaceX PAWS satellite mission in 2017. In May 2019, SpaceX launched the first batch of 60 satellites aboard a Falcon 9. By November 2020, SpaceX had launched 955 Starlink satellites. The initial test operation of the constellation began in late 2020. In March 2017, SpaceX filed with the Federal Communications Commission plans to field a constellation of an additional 7,518 V-band satellites in non-geosynchronous orbits to provide communication services. In February 2019, SpaceX formed a sibling company, Spacex Services, Inc., to license the manufacture and deployment of up to 1 million fixed satellite Earth stations that will communicate with its Starlink system. The Federal Communications Commission, FCC, awarded SpaceX with nearly $900 million worth of federal subsidies to support rural broadband customers through the company's Starlink satellite internet network. SpaceX won subsidies to bring service to customers in 35 U.S. states. On May 15, 2021, SpaceX and Google collaborated to provide data and cloud services for Starlink enterprise customers. The planned large number of Starlink satellites been criticized by astronomers due to concerns over light pollution, with the brightness of Starlink satellites in both optical and radio wavelengths interfering with scientific observations. In response, SpaceX has implemented several upgrades to Starlink satellites aimed at reducing their brightness during operation. The large number of satellites employed by Starlink also creates long-term dangers of space debris collisions resulting from placing thousands of satellites in orbit. Other projects. In June 2015, SpaceX announced that they would sponsor a Hyperloop competition, and would build a 1.6 kilometers (0.99 miles) long subscale test track near SpaceX's headquarters for the competitive events. The company has held annual competitions since 2017. In collaboration with doctors and academic researchers, SpaceX invited all employees to participate in the creation of a COVID-19 antibody testing program in 2020. As such, 4,300 employees volunteered to provide blood samples, resulting in a peer-reviewed scientific paper crediting 8 SpaceX employees as co-authors and suggesting that a certain level of COVID-19 antibodies may provide lasting protection against the virus. Hope you like this video. Please like and share this video and subscribe our channel for more informative videos. Thanks for watching.